Let's call our regular board meeting of the Ojai Sanitary District at 6 p.m. And I see that we have all directors present tonight. So Allison, will you take roll?
Director Curtis,
Present.
Director Martinson,
Here.
Director Stone,
Here.
Director Kentosh,
Here.
Director Quillisi,
Here.
Director Ulrich,
Here.
Chair Berg.
Here. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Allison, are there any changes or amendments to the agenda?
Scroll through it.
There is not.
Public concerns. All right, let's move on to the consent items. All consent items are considered in a single motion and voted on without discussion. Any item removed from the consent list at the request of a board member or the public will be considered immediately following approval of the remaining consent items. Items 6, 7, and 8, approval of minutes, deferred payment of capacity charges, agreements, and review of disbursements and checks for the period of September 20th, 2023 to October 18th, 2023.
Move for approval. I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second for approval. Any discussion on these items? Okay, please take roll. Awesome.
Director Ulrich,
Steve.
Director Stone,
Yes.
Quillisi,
Yes.
Director Kentosh,
Yes.
Director Martinson,
Yeah.
Director Curtis,
Yes.
Chair Berg.
Yes. All right, moving on to item 9. November, December board meetings. We are considering rescheduling November, and we have to reschedule.
Right, so in November, our regularly scheduled meeting falls on Monday, the 27th November, which is the day after the Thanksgiving holiday. And the December meeting falls obviously on Monday, the 25th, which is Christmas Day. So the question would be, what is the preference of the board in terms of keeping November meeting the same Monday after Thanksgiving or moving it at all? And the preference of December, maybe we deal with November 1st. Typically in the past, if there was a move, we moved it to the Monday of Thanksgiving week, which I think would be Monday the 20th. So it's Monday of Thanksgiving week with Thanksgiving on Thursday of that week. But staff is prepared to continue to have our meeting on Monday, the 27th. If that's preferred, there's no issue with staff on the 27th, but if it's a preference of the board, we can keep it or move it.
So, me too.
I'm happy with Monday, the 27th. Anyone else? Any other votes?
I mean, hearing no issues, we'll leave November the same, Monday, the 27th. That's the Monday immediately following the Thanksgiving weekend. And then in December, the board meeting falls on Monday, the 25th, Christmas Day. Again, there's a lot of choice there. If you wanted to keep it on Monday, if that works with your schedule, we could go to the previous Monday, the December 18th, just 1 week early, third Monday instead of the fourth Monday. Either day, if you wanted to go to a Tuesday or Wednesday, that's fine. If Monday's fine for everybody's schedule, staff's fine with Monday, the 18th.
18th works for me.
It works for me. 18th for me. Anybody else?
Okay, so we'll
Third Monday.
move. So December will be the third Monday. Move it to the 18th. Thanksgiving will remain on schedule, fourth Monday on the 27th. We'll send out a little note to you all just to on your calendar.
Okay.
Robert, do we need a motion and a roll call for that? Because we are changing our preset schedule.
You do. Okay, of
Can't drink too much on. That's good.
course not.
So
So we need a motion to move
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on the December 18th date? Okay, Allison, please take roll.
Director Curtis,
Yes.
Director Martinson,
Yes.
Director Pentosh,
Yes.
Director Quillisi,
Yes.
Director Stone,
Yes.
Director Ulrich,
Yes.
and Chair Berg.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Let's move on to item 11A through 11F. Excuse me.
So we have a series of lift stations and we've had some issues over the years with our ultrasonic sensors. So in a wet well, there's an ultrasonic sensor. It's a little thing about the size of my water bottle here, and it beams a sound down to the top of the water in the lift station. And then the pumps are programmed to come on when the lift station fills to a certain point and pump until it goes down to a certain point. And so we have a high level and a low level. We also have a series of floats in the wet well so that, if for some reason the ultrasonic goes bad, the floats can take over. And what we found is the ultrasonics are a little bit sensitive to foaming. So if there's any kind of foam on the surface, which can come from pollutants or soaps or detergents or anything, the wet well can pump itself down to dry, but it'll still be reading that there's still water in it because it's getting mixed up by the top of the
Hurt the pumps.
yeah. And so then things go into alarm and get high temperature alarms and stuff. So we're going to switch over to the sensors being a Vega unit, which is a little radar kind of unit. Hands work the collection system in the SCADA side so that the sensor will be put in the same spot and programmed into SCADA. The same sort of system applies. It reads the top of the water and reads the pump down and so forth. And then we always have the floats in place because if for some reason the radar sensor goes bad, the floats can take over and make sure that the thing doesn't just fill up and never turn on. But it's just a process of putting in new sensors, taking out the old one, wiring it in the installation. We bought the Vegas some months ago out of our operations budget with the intent of doing this months ago, but we kind of got distracted with some other things, and now's the time to sort of move forward and get it finished.
Comments from the directors on item 10?
Radar sees through the foam, I guess, but it still sees the water.
Long-term survivability is radar better?
Long term, we're having some problems with the manufacturer on the ultrasonics. They're not getting supported anymore. So soon we're going to have to change anyway. And we've just had over the years, every once in a while, one of the lift stations will foam and the ultrasonics get confused. We've had it, I think, at every lift station. It just, nothing bad happens. We haven't, had a pump burn up or anything, but it just introduces a set of problems going with the ultrasonics to the foam issues.
Director Steve, go.
So once this is done, how many more radar units are required to completely convert the system?
None on the lift stations. We are looking at converting a couple of wet wells down at the plant. One is the storm drain lift station. We just think the radar units are a little bit more reliable to level controls. And so this will handle all the collection system stuff, all the lift stations. But we may have a couple more down at the plant as we work through. We've got a couple of lift stations down at the plant that plant drain, storm drain pump station. So we're going to work through those as well.
And the delivery time for the radar units is,
Have them.
but for the treatment plant, that's long enough that you couldn't do all of the installations now.
How long do you think it would take to get?
I mean, it didn't take long to get the first set. I mean, but that was, a little bit ago. I don't know what the availability is.
I mean, it's something that we're working through a couple of other problems at the plant. So, I mean, we're not prepared to buy some now. If we do, we'll bring it back as a separate item, but we may have a couple more pump stations down there.
But sooner or later, we're gonna have radar units at this.
They already have radar, the same units.
Get some, we're gonna get some.
Finish
Yeah.
releasing the ultrasonics, okay.
Bill?
Two questions. There's a reference to 20 years. These units aren't, these ultrasonic units aren't 20 years old, are they? Okay, time to change. Anyway, number two, I don't recall having seen Taft Electric as a successful bidder too much. Area of specialization, or are they just?
We have Taft on call and they do work for us on the programming side. We don't like sort of bidding out control stuff at the plant with a bunch of different vendors. And so once we find a programmer who understands our wiring nomenclature and our system of how things are integrated, we don't let them touch somebody new come in and touch stuff. For instance, Cushman is working on our new TMDL project. We don't let them go into our cabinet and start, well, you know, doing stuff. We say, you bring it to the cabinet and we'll make sure it gets done. We just had 2 or 3 people over my time here that Ian trusts and says, nobody but so-and-so is allowed in my cabinet. And so it's just Taft is our programmer right now. And so we've relied on them to integrate the whole thing.
Have they been our program before?
A couple of years.
Yeah, they've worked, yeah.
You may have seen it.
Haven't made too many big mistakes.
Not yet.
You may recall a guy's named Jeff Cook. And before him, Randall, I don't remember Randall's last name. Yeah. And so,
And there's also Dirk.
and Dirk. So Randall was before my time, but in my time, there's been 3 guys, Dirk and Jeff. Jeff's still around the county. He does lots of programming for manufacturing places, the agricultural businesses. And so he's not as readily available when we need him, because we need him right now. And so we use Taft to come in and specifically Dan from Taft to come in and do that program.
Thank you.
Any other director questions or comments?
Have to get a good stable.
What's the pleasure of the board? Item.
Move approval.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on item 10? Allison, please take roll.
Director Curtis,
Yes.
Director Martinson,
Yes.
Director Kintosh,
Yes.
Director Quillisi,
Yes.
Director Stone,
Yes.
Director Ulrich, Chair Berg.
Yes.
So we have 3 contracts. The next 3 items are 3 contracts. They're really FEMA related. So we have, if you look at the list of FEMA projects and you look at the categories and so forth, we have 7 FEMA projects. 4 have been completed and are in the FEMA system working through the approval process. There are 3 that remain. These are restorative projects. These aren't emergency response projects. These are things that weren't emergency, like gotta go do it right now kind of projects. The first one was repaving. This item is repaving Creek Road where we put in the pipeline. So from the beginning of the excavation to the end, it's right over 1,000 feet, somewhere just short of 1,100 feet. We need to go in and mill out 1.5 inches of asphalt and repave it with new asphalt. The county had just finished resurfacing the road literally months before we went in there and did our work. So we got it designed, we went out to bid, we got 4 bids. The low bidder in this case, we have deemed them non-responsive. The reason is that we have a spec section, one of our spec sections that says mobilization is limited to 5% of the total. If you don't have a limit on mobilization, contractors will try and put a big chunk of money there, and then the back end and get a big first progress payment, and then the back end, when they do the work, they're, working for cheap. So we limit it to 5%. Now, one of the things we always consider on mobilization is sometimes on contracts, there is an exorbitant mobilization cost. Usually not on ours, but we at least think about it. So on large projects where you're bringing in a large crane, large excavators, large grading equipment, each of those mobilizations for those large pieces of equipment can run many thousands of dollars. I've seen to haul in to a grading operation, one scraper can cost you 10 grand just for the mobilization to get the big long truck and the permits and the hauling and everything. So, but most of our jobs, it's limited to small sort of construction excavator. In this case, it'll be a grinder and a paving unit and some rollers, but those are sort of coming from Oxnard. They're going to come on not the 11 axle low beds, but probably 5 axle low beds. And so it's a cheaper sort of mobilization, and we limit it to 5%. The low bid contractor, J&H Engineering, had a higher than 5% mobilization. And we talked to them and they kind of acknowledged it. That's really it's an interesting discussion, because if you did the math and just lowered their bid, they'd be even lower and we'd get a better price. They'd stay the low bidder. They wouldn't change any of the order of the bidders. However, by not complying with the specs, that's where we get our non-compliance sort of determination. Once you start messing with people's bids and changing numbers, it really opens the district up to a lot of risk in sort of bid adjustments. And so sometimes there's a minor math error. We've had a couple of those historically over the years here come before the board. But in this case, we've determined that it's really material to the bid and they didn't follow the rules.
Percent's pretty clear on the form.
So we would deem them non-responsive and go to the number 2 bidder, Toro Enterprises. They're more than qualified to do the work. Their bid is appropriate given the scope of work and the pricing. So we believe that that's a more representative and correct bid given the issues surrounding
Are they doing both lanes or just one lane?
both lanes. Full width.
100 feet.
Yeah.
And are they doing any curbing or anything? Or
No, out there, there's no curb. And the reason they're milling an inch and replacing an inch and a half and replacing with an inch is because the shoulder is level. And so if they just paved an inch and a half, then they'd have to do something on the edges. And so this is just a mill and replace in kind.
Any other questions?
Does this have to get run by the county?
We have an open encroachment permit with the county. We'll invite them to the pre-construction meeting. They'll probably have some requirements that we pave one lane and then the other lane and maintain traffic. So we're prepared to do all that.
But nothing relative to section.
They're okay with the scope.
Right.
Jeff, I'm curious about the traffic control. Who handles that?
The contractor will handle that.
Okay.
We'll have to get MTS or whatever.
They'll bring in, Toro's pretty sophisticated. They might use their own crews for traffic control. Some of the smaller contractors, J&H would probably bring in Total Barricade or one of the crews to close things down. But Toro, I think, can handle the whole thing themselves. This should go really quick. It's an inch and a half, a grind and replacement. So the pave goes really, really quick because each truck that comes, goes a long way when you're only doing an inch and a half of a move. I would bet that there's probably a day or two of milling and fussing around, and they might even pave this in a day.
It's the pleasure of the board. We're now voting on item 11A through F. Jack?
Question, do we have any place where we need to use that material for a driveway?
We don't. I'm sure Toro knows somebody that it's going somewhere. A lot of times these millings go to local ranchers to lay down on ranch roads because it's all weather. You mill it up and then you get it a little wet and you put it back down and it doesn't just stay like gravel. It kind of melds back together as almost like a street. So
With dust and
Never in
everything.
the summer,
so
then
I'm sure it's going somewhere locally. It always happens that way.
we pay them to take it up and somebody else pays them to put it down again somewhere else.
Recycled. Rick, what is the pleasure of the board on this item?
I move for approval. You're looking for
A motion.
a A through D.
All right,
Way
we have
through it.
Jack first, Bill second. Any other discussion on this item? Allison, please take roll.
Director Curtis,
Yes.
Director Martinson,
Yes.
Director Kentosh,
Yes.
Quillisi,
Yes.
Director Stone,
Yes.
Director Ulrich,
Yes.
Chair Berg.
Yes. Okay, Jeff, item 12A through H, FEMA Ojai Valley Trail paving project.
So this is the second of the restorative projects. This is for our site over on the Ventura River. And we got 4 bids. Again, we had the low bidder qualified from bidding because of some paperwork anomalies. And the issue there is we require 2 corporate signatures for a bid to be valid. And so a president, vice president need to sign, a president, secretary need to sign, but they need to be corporate signatures. And so our staff goes through the process when we get the bids is they look at who signed the actual bid. And then they go on the state of California's website to check who the,
Who they are.
officers are
Yeah.
and make sure that everything's correct. We do allow someone to submit documentation because if something has missed in the mail, so to speak, if the state's website isn't completely up to date, if someone submits us some sort of most recent documentation to say, here's our new corporate signatures, then we'll accept that if we can verify it. In this case, the second signature was not by someone who is a corporate officer and is not someone who we believe is a valid signer who can commit the company to the actual completing of the work. In this case, it's a secretary, but it's a secretary in the office, not a secretary of the corporation. So we've deemed the low bidder in this case not responsive as well. And going to number 2, again, it's Toro Enterprises. Again, these prices are right in line with our estimates and the scope of work and presents a contractor that we believe can do the work.
Jim,
My memory's not what it used to be, but I kind of recall that a couple of years ago, we had a bidder who had done some irregularity with the signatures and we waived it for some reason. But my memory is not what it used to be. My question for you is, are we being consistent from year to year on how we do this?
Yes, the signature missing there was on a different line item in the specs. In this case, the specs are very clear that it's corporate officers. There's multiple places that we've require signatures. We've also changed our rules and made sure that we've clearly called out what is required of the bidders so that they know there are 2 signatures. It's even listed on the sheet of paper, make sure 2 people sign here. So in this case, Toro challenged bid and said their bid isn't responsive because they didn't have someone sign the paperwork. So I think this is the correct thing to do in this case.
Okay with that, Robert?
Yes, I am.
I'm good.
yes.
One is in the packet, at least the packet I'm looking at, looking page 106 to 107, it seems to miss E.
Oh, okay. I'll give you mine.
I've got,
I was like, mine has that. I wonder if that's been a scam.
Well, I'm just looking at the, it's all right. Packet from the website. And what is it that Frank's, was there a disconnection of a private lateral?
No, so When we went in and did the work, we drove across private property and did substantial damage to private property. And our agreement with one of the property owners is we would put in, since our crews were going to be there, our agreement was we would go in and do a tap into the main line for a property that's on septic. We put in a lateral for him so he could connect in before we paved the driveway that we crashed. No use paving the driveway, having him come in to connect up his unit and have to dig up the driveway. So we agreed to connect up his, we're not connecting up his house, we're putting in a pipe under the driveway to the location he can extend it later. Our agreement.
Just putting in the lateral, not actually connecting to the system.
That's correct.
Would it involve abandonment?
You would have to abandon the septic. There's annexation later, but since we were gonna go in, we'll do the work for him, and that was our agreement to him.
So
Go ahead.
how many feet are we doing of the trail? Sounds like there's things other than the trail that get involved.
Yeah, we're doing almost half a mile.
So,
Yeah.
is it, what, 3-inch concrete or something?
So before the storm, and this is a discussion point with FEMA, but we've gotten over it. The trail was not in perfect condition. It was the asphalt trail. There was a wood split rail fence, and then there was a dirt area. It was kind of trail fence, dirt, horse area. And when we came in there on January 10th to get to the site, the width of the trail wasn't wide enough for the heavy equipment and the mining equipment we brought in. So we took down the wood fence and we drove over the entire asphalt and the dirt and caused significant damage to it. In fact, in many places, we had to bring in base to bridge over the soft spots because we were having equipment sinking into the mud. And so we created this literally 2,500 foot long mining road from the closest access point up the trail to the spill location. So what we're going to do is the county's required us, and it's the right thing to do because of the damage, is we're going to come back in the trail section. We're going to mill out 3 inches of compacted base, and we're going to pave that with 3 inches of asphalt so that the new asphalt matches the horse trail that was graded as part of the mining road. We're not putting back in the wood fence. The county has asked us not to. They are in the process of, they have gotten a grant funding to pave the whole Ojai Trail from Foster Park all the way up through and including through the city of Ojai. They're going to pave the trail and they're going to take out the wood rail fencing in all their sections. And so we're not putting back in the trail in the section we're working on. Apparently their lawyers are decided that people riding down the trail on their bike who catch a handlebar on the wood rail fence post and wipe out and cartwheel is too much of a liability. And so they're just going to have asphalt, a weather stroller bike trail and dirt path next to it. So we're doing the 3 inches of asphalt 10 feet wide to replace the paved section from basically right there at the bridge at where San Antonio Creek comes into Ventura River up to and including through the span of our spill. Our spill was about a 300 foot wide opening, but the other 2,200 feet is to get down to the access point.
And so the 3 inches versus the 1.5 on the street, the face of it, you'd think the street would need thicker asphalt because of the weight of the cars, but you're only going partway through that existing asphalt. Whereas in this case, you're taking it down to the dirt, right?
Right.
So that's why you're building it up.
Right.
That makes sense. I was just thinking when you brought up the fencing, where that fence exists near my house, it's very clearly designated for horses on one side of the fence, people, dog walkers, bikers on the other side. And it strikes me that the liability is going to be more with a horse knocking over, killing somebody on the. I'm a little surprised the attorneys are taking that position, but I think the liability exists because you have horses in proximity to people, but more so than the bike handle catching. But anyway, because on the face of this is, 300,000 versus 100,000 didn't didn't pass the sniff test, but I appreciate you letting me know.
It's a much longer area.
Long-
It's also much more difficult access.
Right.
It's in order to pave the trail, they gotta only use a 10-wheeler. They gotta back all the way up to, the starting point and then pull out. Whereas on the street, they can probably use transfer rigs and go down one side, turn around and come the other way. So the access is easier.
All right.
Director, comments regarding item 12A?
Move approval of 12A through D.
Good.
Jack's our second. Any further discussion on this item? Allison, please take roll.
Director Curtis,
Yes.
Director Martinson,
Yes.
Director Kentosh, Quillisi,
Yes.
Director Stone,
Yes.
Director Ulrich, and Chair Berg.
Yes. Okay. Item 13, soil stockpile export project.
So this is the third of the FEMA projects and to close out all the work. We have a pile of dirt down at the treatment plant, which came from a little bit of debris, but mostly from the trench that we dug on Creek Road for the pipeline. And so it's a big stockpile. It's actually just north of the drying beds on property that the district owns. And so we have it's about 2,700 cubic yards worth of dirt. So export it from our site and regrade our site to storm conditions. The low bidder in this case is Myers Equipment. Their bid is fine, unlike the other two, so we don't have a sponsored bid here. They're going to haul the dirt off and regrade the site and dispose of it in a location that permitted. So you have to check and make sure that they don't just haul it and dump it on somebody's land that they don't have a permit to discharge it on. So we verified that they have a location to haul it to, and it's compliant with an end of pile permitting.
Jim.
I noticed the low bidder is like $40,000 under everybody else's. Is there a reason why theirs is so
They got a local disposal site.
local site? We know where it is.
Yeah, it's going to the Hartman Ranch up off of Reeves Road. Or, Reeves Road. Oregon.
Larry Hardman?
Yeah.
Christmas tree lot, used to be.
He's got an area where that was washed out by the storm. They've gotten a permit from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to replace some of that land that they lost. He's got a permit from the Watershed Protection District, the county, for the work. So he's got a local site, so he's just going to
How good is dirt?
Or it just goes back uphill.
And it's all legal and above.
It's all legal and above board. He's subject to the same bidding and wage requirements of anybody, prevailing wage and so forth. And he has the permits for the property owner has the permits to accept the fill on their site.
It's not a real.
Yeah, I know. Hartman needs a whole lot more than this, but
Jack,
Question. Why don't we spread that material in front of the drying beds there, raise that property up so it could be used in the future?
well, the long-term problem at the plant is that site is located within a floodplain. And so any permanent fill placement modifies the floodplain and requires all kinds of permits from U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. So reality is we're never going to be able to fill in that site, but it wasn't a place where we stored the fill temporarily till we could get rid of it.
question, Jack.
This is my question.
Any other director comments?
He's a good guy.
Great. What is the pleasure of the board? Item 13A through E.
Second.
Who's our first? Okay, any other discussion regarding this item? Allison, please take roll.
Director Martinson,
Yay.
Director Curtis,
Yes.
Director Stone,
Yes.
Director Kintosh,
Yes.
Quillisi,
Yes.
Director Ulrich,
Yes.
Chair Berg.
Yes. Okay, item 14, general manager employment agreement. Draft amendment number 11 to general manager employment agreement, increasing annual salary by 3% effective September 12th, 2023. This is a result of our last board meeting.
Correct. At the last board meeting, there was an approved motion to raise the general manager's base salary 3%. Will now become 290,710.94. This is the formal amendment to his employment agreement reflecting that, which will remain on file with the district. And so the board either needs to approve this motion that was approved, or they can opt for item B, which is give some other direction.
I think there was only, what, 5 directors here or 4? But we did a good job.
There was some discussion, but it wasn't passed.
Any questions regarding item 14 or any suggestions?
Done that.
Deal's a deal.
It should be easy. What's the pleasure of the board?
Move up approval of 14A and B then. Or A, with nothing else appropriate, I think.
We have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval. Any other discussion? Allison, you take roll.
Director Martinson,
Yes.
Director Curtis,
Yes.
Director Stone,
No.
Director Kintosh,
Yes.
Director Quillisi,
Yes.
Director Ulrich,
Stay.
Chair Berg.
Yes. Okay, we have some information items that I guess they don't require a vote, but item 15, collection system replacement.
I just wanted to kind of tell you where we currently are and, you know, if you have any thoughts or guidance with that. So in our collection system, currently, we have a couple of trucks that were up for replacement. Our 550, F550 is a diesel tool truck, crane, air compressor, welder. And the 2007, there's a couple of primary issues with it. First, it's a diesel emission subject to air quality rules, and it's near the end of its permittable life being used on the streets as a public vehicle. Second issue is we've had some maintenance issues with it, and it's just becoming old and tired. And so some time ago, in 2021, we had looked at replacing it. We've been unable to find with the current automaker climate a heavy-duty chassis, with the chassis that we could buy from an auto manufacturer so that we could then modify it and put tools and equipment back onto it. Second thing, in the next year or so, we were anticipating replacing our on-call F-250, which is just a pickup with some very minor tools on it that our on-call operator takes home every night and can use a district vehicle to respond to any call outs or spills or anything. So that was going to be up for replacement. And I just evaluated where we were with our vehicles and decided that we're not going to replace 2 vehicles. We're only going to replace 1, but move up the on-call truck to current times rather than a year or so, and replace it with a truck that has more substantial tool capability. And so we can get rid of the 550 in terms of its need and have a on-call truck that has a little bit more capabilities. That will allow us to sort of cut down our vehicles. It'll allow us to get rid of a diesel engine. And we think that with our other trucks, we can still satisfy our need for cranes and tools. If we need a crane, we have a crane truck. If we need tools, we'll have it on the on-call truck. And this just simplifies our vehicle a little bit. So our plan was to go out to some dealers and say, hey, what do you have in the F-350 with substantial tool capability, and do a 2-for-1 buyout, give them our on-call truck, give them the 550 as is, get a deduction on the purchase price, just replace the on-call truck, something that's a little bit more capable, but a little bit more usable for our crew. So that's what we're planning on doing. We'll see what we can find on the market. It was looking like we were going to be in the range of just under 200,000 to replace both of those vehicles. I think we can replace one for somewhere in the $75,000 range. But we'll get rid of one vehicle and the maintenance needs, plus we'll save 125,000 in vehicle purchases to buy two. If we move down that path, we'll come back to you with a recommendation on here's what to buy and deeming the other two vehicles as surplus equipment as part of that sale.
Jeff, excuse me, had the replacement of the 550 already been budgeted and approved?
Yes. And so we would just sort of recycle that approval. From a paperwork standpoint, you recycle the approval. From a dollar expenditure perspective, we didn't spend anything yet. We would, rather than buying vehicles for maybe 185, we buy one for 75 or so in the process.
Jack.
Will that vehicle be rated at 1 ton?
Probably not. I'm thinking we're going to get either a 250 or a 350. We're going to look at what the pricing is, difference between the two. We do need to have a heavier duty truck because that truck helps pull our generators out to our various lift stations.
Will it be a ton and a half then?
Well, it'll either be 3/4 ton or a 1 ton vehicle. But we'll look at what the options are for those vehicles.
Any other discussion on this item? Jeff, how about item 16?
So we had some questions come up and we just want to sort of reiterate where we are. So we're currently operating under Assembly Bill 2449 as it relates to our board meetings, the Brown Act, and remote attendance. And so there is a process under that that we go through at the beginning of every board meeting for remote attendance. We don't have any this time, but if there is a request coming in, it would need to meet a couple of requirements under state law. There's also a new Assembly bill out there, 557. And if you read the two, it kind of gets confusing, but we tried to simplify it in that 2449 applies to the regular business meetings of the board and remote attendance. 557 is an interesting bill because it's kind of for a set of circumstances that don't exist right now today. And that is, it applies to future disaster declarations by the governor. So in the event there's a disaster declaration tomorrow, 6 months or whenever, then 557 would kick in and allow some provisions for modified remote attendance under the disaster declaration. So it's kind of like, if something might happen in the future, there's a bill out there. We believe that 2449 accurately reflects the current standing under the Brown Act and remote attendance. And so that's the rules we're sort of abiding by. If there's a disaster declaration for whatever reason, we'll evaluate what, if any, the guidance is from the governor's office on that disaster declaration. And if 557 applies, we may implement some of those procedures. Or if there's something new under the disaster declaration that's different than either of these, we'll abide by that. But for current purposes, we just wanted to sort of kind of come down to, hey, we're still under 2449. There's 557 out there. It doesn't really apply to us under normal operating procedures.
Well, our legal counsel has kept us out in bounds so far.
Yeah, I think what Jeff has said is accurate. 557 really is taking the governor's executive orders, beginning of the COVID-19 crisis, and putting it clearly within the statute. So there was fits and starts throughout COVID, as you recall. They were trying to do stopgap measures, extending executive orders. Now they've permanently put it into the Brown Act that upon a state of emergency, you can go to more reduced Brown Act requirements or noticing requirements. So it just makes it easier for you to do what you did back in the day under the executive order. But you're right, under 2449, that's really what governs individual remote attendance, not the whole place going into remote. That would be then a 557 situation.
Any other comments on this subject? That's not a motion item, so we move on. Information items 17 through 22. Does anyone have any comments on?
When we get to 23, I have something to ask.
I did want to mention to Jeff, congratulations on the really good article that was in the Ohio Valley News. About in progress down with all our improvements. I think it was an article on October 3rd. It was just really well done. Did you get any comments from the public, any phone calls? No?
Once in a while, I got a couple of comments at Ojai Day or Saturday.
We got a comment from somebody in Massachusetts about it.
They're subscribing to the Ojai Valley News.
So Jeff, seeing the operations report. We had, I'm doing a failure in the PLC, we had a disinfected water.
So yes,
Fill us in on the regulatory implications of that.
we send in everything to the regulators. We're required to immediately notify them. We haven't received anything back on our notification that it occurred. If there's any future correspondence, we'll let you know what they say or what.
Have they ever imposed fines for any of this?
We've had over the years, we've had a couple of minor fines that $2,000 and $3,000 for a single event here or there. But if something comes up on this, we'll let you know.
You wanted to comment on 23?
No, I don't have a comment so much. It's just something I'd like to have added to
Oh, I see.
the agenda at the next meeting.
All right. Under board member comments, go ahead.
Yeah, I would like to have a board employee satisfaction survey. I want that put on the agenda. So as a board, we can discuss what we can do.
Employee satisfaction survey?
Yes.
Oh, you mean the staff survey?
No, I mean a survey between the board and the employees.
Oh, I see.
I'll support Bill on this. It's always good to talk about stuff like that.
Employees, yeah.
Would you know how to word that, Allison?
Yeah, I can put it on there. Do you want a template or do you want it to be a discussion item only? Because I can prepare some sort of guiding document to lead a conversation.
Now, let's just start it as a discussion item only so we can discuss it.
Okay. Any other board member comments? General manager comments?
A few things. We had a power outage down on Burnham Road. A week or so ago, a tree fell down, knocked down a power line, knocked out power at both of our lift stations on Santa Ana, and Big Santa Ana, Little Santa Ana, Rancho Matilaha, and the office. Went down about 11 p.m. Back up about 2 p.m. or 2 a.m. Just sort of something to highlight. Sometimes when we get power outages, we lose communications with our lift stations because of where the radio links are. Now, Big Santa Ana has an automatic generator that kicks on and fires. And we have 2 mobile generators that we can use at this site or one other sites if we need to. Little Santa Ana and Rancho Matilaha do not have generators. But one of the things the crews have done is they've put in smart covers, which are manhole lid sensors right outside of the lift stations that are satellite powered with a little battery. And so rather than a power outage requiring us to immediately respond because we don't know, can't see what's happening because the radio link also went down, they're able to watch the smart covers through the satellite links, and the flow into the lift station is calculated so we know exactly where lift stations are, even if we can't communicate with them. So during the power outage happened at 11 p.m., we didn't have to respond and put out the generators because we were able to observe the flow into the manholes because of the smart covers. So just a way to sort of have a secondary way to see what's going on with the systems without having to run out there and look in.
Power outage took out the radio link, but it didn't take out the pumps in the lift station.
It takes out the pumps in the lift station but we can't see anything. And we don't know if we need to run down there immediately with a generator and power up the pumps. Can if we need to, but if we don't have to, it just saves us the extra level of effort of running the generator down there and plugging it in. Smart cover kind of eliminates that unknown. We're going to get our new draft operating permit from the regional board. It's going to the regional board for approval in December. A couple of things that we've got included in that permit that will require us to do some work. Number one is there's just more testing requirements. Increase the number of constituents that we have to test for. Sort of normal as new things come on the radar screen, they require us to test for them. They are requiring us to test for PFAS sampling, treatment requirements, but they're going to have us test for PFAS and PFOS. That's how bad it is. The other thing that they're including at every district, not just ours, but every district that they're coming up for permits under the LA region, any treatment plant has to do a reclaimed water study. 5 years. So they're going to ask us or require us to do a, why aren't you reclaimed any of the water? And so we'll go through the process of all of the issues that relate to water issues on the river, at least document them. Our conversations with the staff was, well, the reason we don't recycle is because the fish people at the state want the water going into the river for the fish rather than taking it out of the river for the people. And so we'll just have to go through that documentation process, but they're requiring that of everybody. That's all I have.
If there's no water above the, put it in for the fish to get there.
Well, this is one of those years when the river runs year round. We're gonna, there is still,
Few between.
they're far and few between. There's still flow in San Antonio Creek and the Ventura River.
This is a 100% attendance tonight.
Yeah.
I think that's terrific. Okay, let's now close the meeting at 6:52. Thank you very much, everyone.